Alrighty, let's go through some more myths here. Seller has to pay veterans fees. This is a huge one. So let's talk about allowable and unallowable fees. So the following fees are always unallowed if a 1% origination fee is charged. So what that means is that the lender, us, can either charge a 1% origination fee, or we can break down the fees individually. We can't do both. And so it breaks down to what's called unallowable and allowable fees. And so if any fee that's done in lieu of the 1%, that becomes what's called an unallowable fee, such as appraisal, inspection, settlement fee, doc prep, underwriting, application, pest inspection, attorney's fees, assignment fees, copying fees, and email fees. This pest inspection is really, and it's always a point of contention in the real estate world because there's a lot of people claiming, oh, the pest inspection, oh my God, the seller has to pay it. And sellers get all pissed off about this $100 pest inspection fee, which is just ridiculous. So here's the way that works for that pest inspection is that if the lender does not charge the 1% origination, which my company doesn't, then anyone can pay the pest inspection. The realtor can pay it, the buyer can pay it, the seller can pay it, it's all negotiable. If the lender does charge a 1% origination, then it becomes unallowable, and that means that someone other than the veteran has to pay that pest inspection. Again, it doesn't have to be the seller, it could be the realtor paying it, but the veteran cannot pay that pest inspection. So just want to clear that up because that's a big area that shows up on contracts a lot and people get all weird about it. So there's that. So that myth is busted. You can only have one VA loan at a time. Let's talk about that one. Let's talk about entitlement and eligibility. So who is eligible for a VA loan? So you have minimum times of service. And so it depends on when you served. So this is if you're getting a loan while you're serving. So currently in the Persian Gulf era, it's a 2-year period of time or 90 days if you're doing it while on active duty. As you can see in these other eras, it's either 2 years, 181 days, 90 days. And so we'll look all that up for you. But just know that the minimum times of service do change. This is also negotiable, by the way. If they were discharged, maybe it's a medical discharge. So for example, I had one that had a medical disability. She had a proven claim that happened while in service. So that one, she was able to be eligible to for her VA loans, even though she didn't serve the full 2 years. So keep that in mind as well. Again, here's the certificate of eligibility. It's the golden ticket. Having a COE shows that they have qualified or that they have earned the VA loan benefit. That doesn't necessarily mean they qualify for the loan, but they've earned the benefit or earned the right to get a VA loan. And then the next step is qualification. That means that by your credit and your income that they qualify to get a VA loan. So it's possible you're eligible and not qualify. It's possible you're qualified and not eligible. So keep that in mind as well. So there are some common myths associated with VA entitlement. So one is that you can only have one VA loan at a time. That's not true. The other one is if you foreclose on a VA loan, you can't ever have another one. It's also not true. And so entitlement is always 25% of the max loan guarantee. We'll go through that in a minute as well. So where do these myths come from anyway, by the way? So myth number one is about having one VA loan at a time. And so it's because there are two different sets of entitlement. There's the basic entitlement, and there's also the bonus entitlement. And so as you can see, in 1970s, the basic entitlement was established. But the problem was because of inflation, home valuations kept going up. Originally, they would just keep raising the maximum amount, and they just got tired of doing that. And so they decided to create a second set of entitlement called bonus entitlement. And so, as you saw in that first COE, that the person was out of basic entitlement, but he had his bonus entitlement, which meant he still could get a VA loan. And I'll go through that calculation a bit, exactly how that works. New for 2020, keep this in mind, the Blue Water Navy Veterans Act removed the zero down limit. So a little bit of background on this. It used to be up until this year that the veteran could only get up to the Fannie Mae limit, which last year was 484, 350, I believe. At zero down. They could go over that, but they would have to put a down payment down. Now that's all been lifted. So the person has the income to qualify and doesn't have any entitlement currently charged to themselves. So they either have a conventional loan or they don't have any VA loans currently, or they're selling the house and remove the entitlement prior to closing the VA loan. And they can buy as much as they want up to whatever they can afford, obviously, which is really cool. Warning, I put this warning in here because I know there were some misconceptions at a few of our seminars that we did here in the Dayton area on how exactly VA loans worked. And so I wanted to make sure that you know exactly what's going on with the VA loan program. So warning, VA mortgage loans can only be used for owner-occupied properties. Remember that again, only owner-occupied properties. You can't go buy a bunch of rental houses, you can't go buy a bunch of apartment buildings with it. You can't use it to build a rental portfolio. It's meant to be for the veteran to get a house or a condo, something like that. I do a 4-unit building, by the way. There is a loophole. The veteran can buy a multi-unit property up to 4 units, live in one, rent out the other 3. That's considered owner-occupied, so that's okay on the VA loan. Let's look at the other scenario. The veteran wants to buy a new home, and instead of selling the old home first, they want to wait to sell it. So I had a scenario the other day where the veteran was moving from South Carolina here to Ohio, and it was just a lot easier to buy the house here in Dayton area, up in New Carlisle, I believe, move everybody in, and then abandon the old house, clean it out, make it look pretty, do all the showings, and sell it. It makes it so much easier instead of trying to finagle a simultaneous close or move an apartment. It made it a lot simpler. So if there's enough entitlement and there's enough residual income there, it's possible. The other scenario is maybe they want to retire. So my grandfather served in the Air Force. He was stationed at Keesler Air Force Base for several years in Biloxi, Mississippi. We don't know Keesler. And he's from the New Orleans area. Both my grandparents were from New Orleans. And which is only like an hour away from Biloxi. So they love that area. It's right there on the water. They bought a waterfront property in the early 50s. And so they decided, well, instead of selling this beautiful home, we're going to retire here later, 20 years down the road. So they went and got out of their houses, moved all around the country. And then in 1970, they decided, well, now we're retiring. We're going to move back to Biloxi where we had this beautiful house and retired there right on the ocean front. And so it's, that scenario completely allowed on VA, and they can continue to get other properties in that process while they're maintaining that one home and renting it out. So it's a very powerful program if you know how to use it. So how do you calculate this? So what you do is you subtract the first VA mortgage taken out, and for the remainder, then that can be used for zero down. So right now, as of 2020, which I'm recording this, the Fannie Mae limit is $510,300. So they had a VA mortgage for $100,000 currently, and they want to buy another house and keep the first one. They can go up to $410,300, which is $510,300 minus $100,000 at zero down. They can buy more, but they just put a down payment down. So keep this in mind. You must use your bonus entitlement for this part, which means you can't buy a little $80,000 house. You have to go over the 144 minimum for bonus entitlement to take advantage of this. I don't know why they do it that way, but they do. So keep that in mind. Here in Dayton, we do have some smaller homes that are lower values. So you got to keep that in mind as well. So what did they go over? Yeah, say the second home was for $510,300, and the first home for $100. Then the vet would have to pay 25% of the difference as a down payment. So in this example, they went over by $100,000. They went for $510,000. They went over for $100,000. So the total of the two was $610,300. So that overage of $100,000, and remember we talked about a loan guarantee earlier. That overage would be $100,000. They have to pay 25% of that, or $25,000 would be the down payment. So myth, if you foreclose on a VA loan, you can never use it again. That's completely a myth. It just cancels out the first entitlement. The veteran can use bonus entitlement. They would have to credit qualify. There's a waiting period on that as well. And you need to have a pretty good explanation for that foreclosure, but it's definitely possible to have a foreclosure and still use the VA loan benefit. So that myth is busted. VA appraisals are harder. Let's talk about that one in a minute. So for those of you who've never gone through an appraisal process, I don't know if you're a realtor or a lender or what you've gone through before. Most appraisals have no sort of rebuttals, no sort of ways to go through it. If you have a conventional appraisal and the appraiser says it's worth 80, but you think it's worth 90, then sucks to be you. The appraiser's word is gold and you're kind of hosed. VA, on the other hand, has an appraisal rebuttal process. So the first one's called Tidewater, and the second one is called reconsideration of value. And they work slightly different. The first one is called Tidewater. That's where the appraisal has not given value yet. The appraiser must issue what's called a Tidewater alert, and they have 48 hours to turn 3 comps. The appraiser has either received comps that support the purchase price, received comps that do not support the purchase price, or received no comps or no response in 48 hours. So then the appraiser issues a new value, and then the appraiser sends that new appraisal to the lender. So in other words, the realtor has an opportunity to give their feedback to the value. The listing agent especially can say, I believe this home is worth this amount because. The second one's reconsideration value. So say that appraisal comes in and the realtors look at it and go, oh, this sucks, we can't use this. You can actually send that to the VA and do what's called a reconsideration of value, where a staff appraisal reviewer, also known as a STAR, can look at it and do a reconsideration of value. A lot of lenders don't know how to do this, by the way. We here at Russ Mortgage, where I work, do these all the time, have no problem with it. Keep in mind that typically on those situations, you'll need to come to terms with something between what the appraisal came in and the contract price. So maybe it was the contract price was 100, or the contract price was 150, it came in at 125. You might decide we're going to split the difference, make it 135 on the final valuation, like that type of thing. You can't really say it's all or nothing. You typically have to do some sort of negotiation on that. So that myth is busted. So time to move on to the next section.